When you're building a house, one of the best parts of the process is being able to pick out all of the design elements that will give it a personal touch and announce to the world that this is your house. But if you don't have a plan, what should be the most fun part of the process can end up being the most stressful and lead to the most regret. So in this video, I'm going to give you a plan to have in place before you go to the design studio. Stay tuned. What's up, everyone? It's Jeff with Jeff West Properties, your host for the Conroe Living Channel, where we identify and celebrate everything that makes Conroe, Texas, one of the fastest growing cities in America. Because Conroe and the greater Montgomery County area are growing so rapidly, you have lots and lots of new home developments as a result of that, which means there is a ton of opportunity to build your dream home from the ground up. And when you're building from scratch with a production builder like Pulte or Toll Brothers, David Weekley, Perry, Highland, companies like that, they're going to have design studios where you can go in and pick out things like lighting fixtures and mirrors and counters, floors, everything that goes in front of the walls. I've seen so many couples go into the design center thinking they were walking into Disneyland, only to walk out feeling like they just got out of a war.
We barely made it out alive.
That's because they didn't go in with a vision, a budget, and a plan. On average, people will spend about 15 to 20% of the total budget of the house on the upgrades. And what a lot of them may not know is that a large percentage of the profit that a builder makes is on these upgrades because the markups are huge.
Huge. Huge.
So huge.
Now, if you're someone that money is no object, well, first of all, hi, my name is Jeff West. I would love to be your realtor. Second of all, you're probably not watching this video. So if you are like the rest of us, you want your home to look exactly the way that you want it to look, and you want to spend your money as wisely as possible, or at the very least, not get taken advantage of. So the best way to do that is to go in with a vision, a budget, and a plan. Here's my advice on how to accomplish that. First, let's talk about the vision. Sometimes people go into a design center with a blank slate and they just look at all the elements and they pick out their favorite of all things. But when they get to actually seeing them together, which is not until the very end of the build, sometimes they're going to be disappointed because it doesn't all really work together. It doesn't have the feng shui they're looking for. Am I saying that right?
Feng Shui?
No.
It doesn't work as a unified aesthetic. Going in with an aesthetic will help you avoid disappointment and significantly cut down on time. One of the other big frustrations of building a home and going to the design center is sometimes it takes half a day to pick out everything, and then your eyes get glazed over and everything looks exactly the same. Having an aesthetic will help you cut down on that frustration. The best way to build a vision is to start with things like design magazines or go to Pinterest. One of the best things I recommend for people to do is go to model homes. Tour as many of them as you can because they are designed to work together as an aesthetic. Find out what works for you, take a bunch of pictures, and then build your dream board based on that.
Excellent vision. Excellent vision.
Now, the next thing that you have to have is a budget.
Do you see a budget? I don't see a budget.
Another problem with going into the design center with a clean slate is that you see all these elements and there's all these just shiny objects and you want the best of everything. So you start picking out what you think will make up your dream home, and that stuff really starts to add up. So the next thing you know, you've either pushed the house outside of what it would actually appraise for, or you push it outside of your budget where you can't accomplish it all anyway.
It's a tough economy. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Some of the bells and whistles in the design studio just don't return value. So the first thing is to know what comes standard in the house that you're building. Every house in its base price is going to have everything that it needs to be functional. Floors, countertops, kitchen, some type of tile or something in the bathroom. But it's really important that you ask the sales agent what is standard and what would be considered an upgrade, because different companies actually have different standards in their builds. In fact, sometimes the same company can have a different standard depending on what community it is. In fact, you can go to one neighborhood where a builder will offer a premium kitchen package, but that very same builder won't offer that in another community. So it's really important you ask those questions up front. So once you have that information, the next thing to do is go shopping before you go to the design center. Once you have your vision in place, start pricing out all those things that go into that vision. Go to places like Home Depot, Lowe's, Amazon, Wayfair, places like that, and look at what those things actually cost to compare them to what the builder's prices are going to be. That way you can decide what you want the builder to put in and what you think you can do yourself for cheaper later on down the line. Price things like backsplash, appliances, floors, counters, mirrors, lighting fixtures.
Price for everything.
Now, even though you may be able to find lower prices than the builder's going to charge, sometimes people think it's still better to go with the builder because they can roll that cost into the loan so they're not having to come out of pocket so much. The problem with that line of reasoning is builders are sometimes, actually most of the time, going to charge some kind of deposit for all of the upgrades, sometimes as much as half. So since you're coming out of pocket either way, why not save some money and do some of those things afterwards and do them yourself? I'll talk more about this later. Now here's a side note. Builders are not going to tell you this, but sometimes those deposits can be negotiable. There's several factors to be considered, and a good realtor is going to have the knowledge and know the leverage that you can have to actually negotiate those things.
A realtor's realtor!
But as a for instance, if you go to the design center and you pick out orange cabinets and plaid wallpaper, the builder is probably going to be a lot less likely to negotiate those deposits down. There are two primary reasons that the builders charge a deposit, and they both have to do with what happens if the deal fails. So, for instance, if you go in with very specific design choices and the deal falls through for whatever reason, the builder is going to be stuck trying to sell this. It's pretty buyer specific. The other reason is if you go in and deck the house out with the highest dollar upgrades and then the deal falls through, the builder is going to have to sell that house and they're not going to be able to charge the premium they were going to charge you. So at least they're not going to be able to sell it for the profit they were going to make. So the more appealing your designs are to the masses, the more likelihood you will have that you can negotiate what those deposits will be. So now that you have the vision and the budget, next it's time for the plan.
Plan.
Here are the things that you shouldn't upgrade, the things that you should, and the things that you can probably do yourself. Now, this is one you're going to want to do actually before you even go to the design center and hopefully before you sign the contract. Anything structural. So if you want to bump out the primary bedroom to have a sitting area or you want a 3-car garage, you want to do that at the beginning. Now, for some of you, that seems like a no-brainer, but I have had clients actually say things like, we don't have need for a 3rd-car garage right now, but we can always add it later. But it's not going to be like just changing out countertops. You're talking about blueprints and city permits. It's a full-on construction, so it's better off to do that in the beginning. Along that same line, anything electrical, not the fixtures. I'm talking about actually running the wires and placing the outlets. Anything from having the outlet where you want to hang a TV to surround sound. You want to do all that stuff while the walls have not been built yet. Another thing is flooring and tile. Now, you may be able to find cheaper prices with flooring companies, but believe me, you don't want the headache after you moved in of trying to redo the floors. You may do something simple with tile like backsplash because maybe the design center doesn't have exactly what you're looking for, and it's pretty cheap and pretty easy to do. Another exception would be if you don't have to move in right away, then yes, maybe you can get a flooring company to come in and do it for cheaper. But remember, there's already going to be flooring in the house, so you have to decide if the cost difference or the cost savings is going to be worth ripping out the original floors that you have. One thing you could try to do, doesn't normally work, is you can try to have the flooring cost deducted from the base price.
Please elaborate.
The problem with doing this is that builders probably won't deduct that much from the cost, and you may run into issues with final inspections if there's no flooring. Another one, a tub in the primary bathroom. Now, even if you don't use a tub and you'd rather have a larger stand-up shower, this is more about resale. When you go to sell it, so many more people want to have a tub that by not having one, you're actually going to make your house less appealing to be able to sell later. Here's another one. Whenever you can, go for the 42-inch cabinets. They look nicer, they're going to add to the resale value and make it a lot easier to sell. And finally,
They put in everything but the kitchen sink!
oh no, definitely going to add the kitchen sink. So it could end up costing you a lot more money to do it later, especially if you're looking at one of those farmhouse sinks. There's so much potential to damage the sink, damage your countertops. Let the builder deal with that headache. Get what you want from them now. Pay the premium. It'll definitely be worth it. Now let's talk about the upgrades that you want to skip at the design center. This is going to be a little less definitive and more specific to your house and the houses around you. For instance, even if the builder offers a wine bar and they put those into the homes they build that are $1 million plus, if you have a $400,000 house, you could put a wine bar in, but if the other houses in the area don't have that, you're not going to get your money back. If you're not concerned about that, if this is more about your lifestyle, then by all means, put in a wine bar. Put in a wine cellar. Build an orchard. Go crazy. Another thing to avoid is the latest technological upgrades. Now, if they come standard, great. But if you have to pay for an upgrade charge for the latest in cutting edge technology, just remember how much you paid for that first iPhone or that first flat screen. What do you think they're worth now?
There's absolutely no resale value whatsoever.
Now let's talk about the things that you can do yourself. Remember I said we would talk about this later?
Well, here we are.
Paint. Now you could probably spend a lot of money on the upgrade of premium paint, but you could do it for yourself a lot cheaper. And one of the things I would recommend anyway is to wait a year, because your house is going to settle and you're going to get nail pops and cracks, things like that as it settles. Most of the time the builder is going to come in and fix those things within the first year. Then go out and get the paint you want, paint it yourself. You'll save a lot of money. Another one that you can do yourself is appliances, and a lot of people don't know this. You can actually ask the builder, and a lot of times they'll give you a credit and not install appliances. Then you can go out and spend probably less money and get exactly what you want. The one thing you'll have to note, though, is if you are wanting to do a double oven when they have a standard package, they're going to have to change the cabinetry as well. So just make sure you know that going in. But then you can stick with your favorite brand and get exactly what you want. Lighting fixtures. Now, unless the builder's prices match what you saw in Wayfair, Home Depot, things like that, do it yourself. You'll save a ton of money. You'll be able to get exactly what you want. Even if they have things that are really nice in the design center, you can find them almost anywhere else, and there's always going to be a pretty big markup at the design center. Also, ceiling fans. And believe me, you will save a lot of money doing ceiling fans yourself, not having the builder put those in. Do make sure, however, that you have the builder pre-wire it for a ceiling fan and also brace it for a fan. Putting a fan in yourself is not that difficult, but putting the bracing in afterwards can be a big chore. Hardware. Kitchen hardware, bathroom hardware, there is a huge markup on those things. Just do it yourself and save the money. If you're thinking of doing crown molding, that's another thing I would suggest doing yourself as well. Big markup, big premium if they do it with the builder, and it's not that difficult to install it yourself or get a handyman to do it. You'll save a lot of money. Window treatments and blinds. And this is another one with a huge markup. You can easily do this yourself and save money, but I will say make sure that you order them well ahead of the completion date of your home, because sometimes those things are on back order and you may think you will get them in a week and it ends up taking a month or 2 months. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time. You can always buy those paper blinds that you don't have, they're self-adhesive and they're easy to put on as a temporary fix, but you're better off just getting that stuff out of the way quickly. Backsplash. That's something we talked about earlier. Backsplash, really easy to do. You can save yourself a lot of money doing it yourself. I'm not just talking about in the kitchens and bathrooms, but like tiling the fireplace. You can have a statement piece fireplace by having floor-to-ceiling tile, floor-to-ceiling stacked stone, something like that, but you're going to pay a premium with the builder where it's not that difficult to do it yourself, or at least buy the materials and have a handyman do it later. Another one that you shouldn't do, don't upgrade the granite. If you have in the standard package a level 1 granite, just leave it alone. When you go to sell the house later, no one's going to go in really knowing the difference of whether it's level 1 or level 6. They're either going to know that you have granite countertops or you don't.
I love Brazilian granite. How come I don't have Brazilian granite?
I would say, though, if you want to upgrade to a different stone like a quartz, go ahead and do that with the builder. Don't try to do that afterwards, because the builder won't leave countertops off. You're going to get something. So if you try to upgrade later, you're going to have the expense of removing all the old stuff. to bring the new stuff in, all the labor. And even though they may charge a premium now to do it, it may be a wash in the end and you can avoid all the headache. The other thing is if you try to change the counters yourself later, you could crack them. You could break the cabinets. Let the builder deal with that now to avoid the headache and the extra expense possibly later. Custom closets. Big markup that they have for these things. They're beautiful. You'll love them in the design studio, but you'll love them just as much when you hire a custom closet company later and see that the bill is substantially different. Make sure you get at least a basic level so you've got something to hang your clothes on, and then just get a custom closet company to do it later.
That's a lot of information.
It's a lot to process.
Now, I hope this list was helpful. It's just scratching the surface of everything you can run into in the design center. And my advice, as always, is if you're dealing with real estate, always work with a pro. Work with someone who works in new construction and can help you avoid the pitfalls and the headaches that come with it. If you have any questions about this process or anything real estate related, pick up the phone, give me a call, text, or email. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and help you start the process of building your own dream home or finding a home anywhere in the greater Montgomery County area or even the greater Houston area. I'm a relocation specialist who's helped people all over the nation relocate to the Lone Star State and specifically the greater Houston region. Also, if you haven't already done it, make sure to subscribe to the Conroe Living Channel where you can learn everything about what makes up the DNA of one of the fastest growing cities and regions in America. If you're interested in some new construction areas, check out this playlist.